Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for the second half of our sessions for today. And for this part, we'll be doing lightning round sessions. So there are 5 lightning round sessions for this part of the set. For this part, there will be, each presenter will present, and at the end of all 5 presentations, we'll take any questions that are submitted via chat. During this time, we do ask that you remain muted, and then after each presenter, we'll go ahead and introduce the next presenter at that point in time. Our first presenter today is Kelsey Coles, and she is joining us today from University of Pittsburgh Health Sciences Library. So thank you so much, Kelsey, for joining us.
Hey everyone, so yeah, I'm Kelsey and I'm the academic coordinator for the Middle Atlantic region of the Network of the National Library of Medicine. Today I'm going to be sharing some information with you about how and why the NNLM has worked to improve health information on Wikipedia. So first, let me give a brief overview of what NNLM is for those of you who may be less familiar. So within the National Institutes of Health, there are 27 institutes and centers. The National Library of Medicine, or NLM, is one of those. And the NLM hosts a variety of programs and services in support of its mission, which is to enable biomedical research, support healthcare and public health, and promote healthy behavior. And one of those programs is the NNLM, or the Network of the National Library of Medicine. NNLM is an outreach and engagement focused organization based around providing member organizations with training, information, and informational materials, funding opportunities, and other services in support of our mission to advance the progress of medicine and improve the public health by providing all U.S. health professionals with equal access to biomedical information and improving the public's access to health information to enable them to make informed decisions about their health. NNLM is open to any organization that works with health information, and our members include public and academic libraries, K-12 schools, public health, community-based government and professional organizations, and more. And membership in all of our services are completely free. Overall, the NLM is known for providing a wide variety of free online health information resources. So you might wonder then why NNLM has been running Wikipedia editing campaigns. And to answer that, I need to talk a little bit about health information on Wikipedia. So despite common skepticism of Wikipedia, this collaboratively created online encyclopedia is one of the most frequently used health information resources in the world, including among students and professionals. And this holds true in the medical field, with over 90% of med students and 50 to 70% of physicians using Wikipedia to find health information. Wikipedia has over 200,000 health articles, and they're written in over 250 languages, and they receive over 6.5 billion page views annually. At least half of American adults seek health information online, and when they do, we know it's more likely that they're finding it on Wikipedia than on an NIH or NLM page. So the idea with these editing campaigns is that we're essentially just working to meet the public where they are, where they're already finding information. So additionally, one of the NLM's major strategic goals is to reach more people in more ways through enhanced dissemination and engagement. Wikipedia's health articles have a wide reach, and our campaigns are also a way of engaging member organizations in our work and making them more aware of the types of information that can be discovered through NLM. So we focused on involving librarians in these campaigns as editors and as event hosts, because it's easy to show librarians how their professional values align with the values of Wikipedians. So both groups value open access to information, accurate information, and good references and citations. Wikipedia is also relevant to all types of libraries because essentially all types of information can be found on Wikipedia. So now let me tell you a little bit more about these campaigns and their structure. The campaigns are organized by a nationwide working group of NNLM and NLM staff members. We've used the hashtag #CiteNLM to name and promote our campaigns, which began in 2018. And since then, we've run 2 campaigns each year. So we're coming up on our 6th campaign this fall. Each campaign has a particular topical focus. For instance, the Spring 2020 campaign was focused on preventive health and wellness. Because most of our editors are completely new to Wikipedia editing, the goal of our campaign is pretty simple. We're trying to improve Wikipedia's health information primarily by adding citations to trustworthy health information resources from the NLM, the NIH, the CDC, etc. More advanced editors are absolutely welcome to participate and do more advanced article editing or creation. But we found that adding small amounts of material and references is an easy way for new editors to sort of dip their feet into Wikipedia, especially given that medical articles have a higher evidentiary standard than other categories of Wikipedia articles. So early Site NLM events were one-day virtual events, and there was one that was an in-person event at the annual meeting of the Medical Library Association. All participation was done by interested individuals, and our working group was largely focused on providing access to training materials for interested editors. Over time, as the working group has learned what works well and what works less well, the campaigns have evolved. Now, Site NLM runs for a full month, twice each year, to enable greater participation. Many individuals do still participate. We still provide an introductory training session at the start of each campaign, but we've also expanded beyond that. We now offer the opportunity for institutions to host campaign-affiliated events during our campaign periods at their own libraries or organizations, and we've had medical, academic, and public libraries participate in our campaigns this way. We offer an organizer's guide to make the process of hosting an affiliated event really easy. It contains guidance on the logistics of scheduling and running an event, suggested promotional content, and lots more. We do still host one-day virtual editathons at the end of our month-long campaigns, but these are sort of a final push to make edits rather than the complete focus of our campaign. Another thing we've learned is that we need to place more emphasis on promotion and outreach, so we've been working on our social media game as a result of that. We also now use a Wikipedia integrated online dashboard where editors can sign up for our event to have their editing statistics tracked. And on this dashboard, editors can also find a list of suggested articles to edit, so it makes it really easy for folks to participate. All right, let me share some data about the results of our campaigns with you. Overall, through our 5 campaigns that we've run so far, 342 editors have made almost 2,000 edits to 533 different articles, and they've added around 262,000 words. The Wikipedia integrated dashboard only began tracking references added for the fall 2019 campaign, but across the last 2 campaigns, 708 references to trustworthy health information have been added, and the edited articles have been viewed overall 9.6 million times. Overall, our campaigns show a general trend of growth in the number of editors, but a sort of downward trend in the number of total edits. And we think that this is probably due to the fact that as we're expanding and reaching a wider audience, more less experienced editors are joining the campaigns, which we think is fantastic. And this is probably due to the fact that we've had more institutions hosting local affiliated events. So these newer editors, we think they probably have less capacity or less confidence to make a large number of edits. Interestingly, the number of edits doesn't always correlate with the number of article views. So in other words, making a smaller number of edits to more highly viewed pages can have as much impact as making more edits to less highly viewed pages. By most measures, our fall 2019 campaign was our most successful one yet, with 548 references and 48,000 words added to 99 articles by 108 editors. We were hoping that spring 2020 would have comparable success. As it turned out, April 2020 was not really a great time to be asking folks to do things that were new, outside of their usual job tasks, and maybe a little outside of their comfort zones, which is obviously completely understandable. Still, we were able to have editors add 160 references to pages with 3 million views. So our next editing campaign is coming up this fall, most likely in November, and it'll be focused on maternal and fetal health articles. We're hoping that participation will be able to ramp back up again after our little spring 2020 downturn, that we can engage some new editors and new institutions in the work of improving health information on Wikipedia. If you'd like to learn more about how to get involved, either as an individual or to host an event at your institution, you can visit nnlm.gov/wiki, or you can just send me an email at kac221@pitt.edu. Even if you just want to talk about health information on Wikipedia or Wikipedia in the academic sphere in general, those are topics I'm super interested in, and I would love to chat with you more about them. So yeah, just shoot me an email. Thank you so much for your time this morning, and I hope you enjoy the rest of today's presentations.
Great, thank you so much, Kelsey. Our next presenter is Brett Stifler from Carleton University, and I'll just take him a moment to go ahead and set up his slides.
Thank you. Hello, good morning, everyone. Okay, can everyone see my slides full screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Hello, my name is Brett Stifler. I am the Director of Grace Library at Carleton University. I'm here today to talk to you about the nexus of instructional design and library services, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a unique model that we have at Carleton University of a blended library and Center for Digital Learning and Innovation. So the first thing I'd like to talk about here is a great article that came out in The Atlantic just a few days ago by Michael D. Smith, a professor of information technology and marketing at Carnegie Mellon University. And it says, our university is going the ways of CDs and cable TV. Like the entertainment industry, colleges will need to embrace digital services in order to survive. And I just want us to kind of think about this. You know, and in a lot of ways, COVID-19 has really challenged us and possibly sped up a process that was already underway of our students demanding more a la carte services, more digital services, and being able to be a lot more flexible with their education. And that's no different for libraries and higher education. With COVID-19, you know, students are now finding out that their colleges and universities are capable of offering a la carte services. You know, a lot of us in the spring attempted to hurry up and do everything online at a moment's notice when we all got surprised with COVID-19. But even in the short period of time, we were able to offer a digital education that was accredited and that students may or may not have gotten their full value out of, but they've seen that we are capable of this. And my guess is that students will be demanding more of these a la carte services, more of these digital engagement strategies from their universities and from their libraries. So it's just a question that we all have to think about, I think. And I'd like to quote this article here, if I can move the box of faces out of the way. What if new technologies could allow us to understand the varied backgrounds, goals, and learning styles of our students and provide educational materials customized to their unique needs? And then at the bottom it says, might we discover, as the entertainment industry has, a wealth of talented individuals with valuable contributions to make who just didn't fit into the rigid constraints of our old model? That's a very good question that I have been grappling with since this article came out, and I would like to challenge the rest of you to grapple with this as well. Clearly, there is a need for blended librarianship. Students are, you know, we are used to doing things in the same way that we always have. A lot of us are adapting daily as part of our work in higher education libraries and academic libraries. But there's a continued need. There's not a point that we are going to kind of reach where, okay, we've made it and we can stop adapting and stop changing and stop being innovative. I think that the innovation is going to continue, and we all have to find ways to think creatively. This is a quote from Stephen Bell and John Schenk from their seminal paper, The Blended Librarian, in 2004. And it basically says that librarians lag in our understanding of pedagogy and adoption of instructional design theory and practice. These skills have been ignored within library education despite academic librarians being integral to the teaching and learning process. Many members of our profession are woefully deficient in their knowledge of how learning takes place, how structures for effective learning are designed, and how learning outcomes are assessed. So to borrow, librarians borrow, little librarian humor, to borrow from my colleague Richard Brustowitz, decoupling library services from physical space. We are often, if you ask a random person off of the street what a library is, they will often say, a place with books. And we know better. We've been on the path of reaching out to our users and our stakeholders digitally and outside of the physical space and reaching them where they are. We've been doing this for years now, and we know that books are just one method of information delivery, and we often offer a slew of a portfolio approach of different information access modalities. So the central question remains, how can we continue to expand access to information and teach information literacy without, quote, the library? Is this even possible? It's not a question that I have an answer for, but I'm going to tell you how at Carlow University we have kind of adapted and are doing things a little differently. So last year in 2019, the Center for Digital Learning and Innovation was merged under the umbrella of Grace Library. So now Grace Library is a combined instructional design and library services department at Carlow University. So our Center for Digital Learning and Innovation, in the past, it was a strategic initiative that was started as part of the strategic plan to grow online program enrollments and develop courses to lead pedagogy implementation in online classrooms, and also to train instructors on different ways to think about pedagogy in an online space, asynchronous versus synchronous instruction and things like that. They also offer instructional design as a resource. And they offer a lot of electronic resources that whenever I was the systems librarian, before I took over as the director, I realized that I was pursuing a lot of the resources that they already had access to. So there's a lot of overlap between our two departments. And obviously you all know what library services do. We have access services, information literacy instruction, electronic resources, physical resources, discovery, and last but not least, reference and research consultations. So when I first took over, I kind of thought, oh boy, I don't know anything about instructional design, but I quickly found that these two areas have a lot of overlap, probably a lot more overlap than certainly than I was aware of, and a lot more overlap than I think I expected. These are two areas that, as the systems librarian, I was kind of focused on how do I engage users in a digital space? How do I engage users that are not coming to the library and stopping by my desk? How do I reach people from their homes when they may not be thinking about the library? They may have never even set foot in the library. If they're a commuter student or if they're an online student, how do I engage those users? And I wasn't fully aware of the way that our instructional design department and our instructional designers, I didn't need to ask these questions because I was reinventing the wheel. They already know how to do this. So that was a really valuable insight for me, and this merger has been seamless, and it's been a very big success for us. So I'm just going to talk about a Venn diagram here. Where do instructional design and library services overlap? Obviously, you all know what library services are. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on that. But the instructional design services in our Center for Digital Learning and Innovation, they manage the LMS system. They conduct instructional technology training. They develop online courses. They serve as the instructional designer, and the faculty serve as the subject matter experts to kind of create more engaging, more interactive, and more pedagogically sound methods of asynchronous instruction, and some synchronous as well. There's been a lot more synchronous with COVID-19 and everybody having to hurry up and teach from home very quickly. They also conduct pedagogical and andragogical consultation with faculty. And the main difference between the instructional design department and library services, at least at Carlow University, is that library services are very student facing, whereas the instructional design services are very faculty and instructor facing. So by bringing these two departments together, we have found that there is a lot of areas, there's a nexus in the middle here with electronic resources, trend setting and technology at our institution, providing instructional support, developing reusable learning modules, class resources, copyright, and open educational resources. These are all areas that we can bring the expertise of our librarians in with the expertise of our instructional designers to really provide a far more robust and comprehensive resource center for our institution. And this has been, it's an ongoing process, and it's been very successful so far. And I sort of started this thinking, oh boy, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I realized that there is a ton of potential now that I've had a year to work on this and a year to talk to a lot of people and get some ideas. There's a lot of potential here, and we have some great ideas that we are pursuing going forward. There's a lot of systems that our two institutions overlap with and have in the past. And I'm not going to take up too much of your time here, but you can see in the middle here, there is a lot of systems that are used by both departments now that are very, very, very useful and very high impact, especially things like Academic Video Online, the Journal of Visual Experiments, all of that kind of stuff, story blocks for royalty-free images and music, things like that. There's a lot of overlap here, and by bringing the expertise of the librarians and the instructional designers together, we are able to provide a more engaging way to kind of decouple our library services from the physical space and also assist the instructional designers with their work in the online classrooms. So a few takeaways here very quickly, I'm running out of time, but find ways to communicate value with your stakeholders in ways that they understand, use their language. There's a funny story that we were talking to our provost, the librarians and myself were talking to the provost, and we were going on and on about information literacy, and halfway through he stopped us and said, okay, you're using this term, but what does that mean? And I kind of took for granted that he knew what that meant. But I have learned that our stakeholders don't always know the language. So I've started using instructional language and student success metrics to communicate our value. And that way we highlight the way that we serve the university's mission. Also, look for ways to get more involved in digital instruction and embedded librarianship. If you have instructional designers, work with them, build a partnership with them, build some interactive learning modules with them. And if you don't, then consider, if you have the resources, training and hiring instructional design librarians. That's a growing nexus field that a lot of people are pursuing. Also consider asynchronous instruction and asynchronous access services delivery. Students may continue to demand a la carte services, and we have to be ready for that. And so I would just challenge us all to think outside the box. And here's my works cited. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. Our next presentation is by Ethan Merrick, Kelly Saffin, and Renee Kiner from the University of Pittsburgh. So give them a few moments here to pull up their slides and get them ready to go.
Hello, everyone. Can you everyone hear me and see my slides okay? Alrighty. Thank you. My name is Ethan Merrick, and I'm joined today by my wonderful colleagues Renee Kiner and Kelly Saffin. We are from the Milstein Library at the University of Pittsburgh at Greensburg. Today we're going to be talking to you a little bit about an activity we came up with called Making Citations Stick. A little bit of the rationale behind this endeavor comes from last year. Kelly and Renee were presenting on switching to an online feedback form for whenever we do presentations and class instruction. So we did switch to an online feedback form, and we were getting some very positive feedback about different things that students were interested in. And we found out that students asked for more citation instruction. So we were using some different ideas, and we adapted a passive exercise known as Which is Which, and to meet the need for the request for more hands-on practice. So we wanted to integrate active learning into this endeavor, and so we created a new active citation activity. We wanted to bear in mind the ACRL frameworks whenever we were creating this activity. Specifically, we were incorporating the ACRL frame of scholarship as conversation, and the knowledge practice of citing the contributing work of others in their own information production. So that is sort of some of the rationale behind what we were going for and background on the information. Renee is going to talk to us a little bit about overview of our activity and some of the details of our exercise.
Thank you. So as Ethan mentioned, we wanted to create a more hands-on citation activity. Kelly had participated in a library juice class where she had an assignment to develop an activity for students. She created a citation exercise for the library juice class that she thought we'd be able to use in our one-shot session with our campus's freshman seminar course. So our library classroom has 4 tables where 4 to 6 students sit in groups. So we purchased 4 magnetic dry erase boards, 1 for each group. We also hand the groups an envelope which has a dissected citation on magnetic paper. What we hand out to the students is the picture on the right. So when we hand the students their magnetic board and envelope, the only thing that we tell them is whether the citation in the envelope is APA or MLA. So on the next slide, you'll see an example of the dissected citation. So the students need to figure out on their own if the citation is a book or a journal article. And to make the exercise a little more fun, we used a book and an article that featured Beyonce, which is the citation formation. The students worked together in their groups to put the citation together correctly. Some groups were very competitive, especially when they had friends in other groups. So the librarians would walk around while students were working and explained that they could check the Purdue OWL or Excelsior for online citation help if they were struggling. We also were able to tell the students that we have the style guides in the library and where to find them. And then it also gave us an opportunity to tell them that we're there to help them when they're putting their citations together for a paper. So if they have specific questions, they can always ask a librarian. So this exercise provided them with the real-time experience of putting together citations that they had asked for. And it also gave us the opportunity to tell them how the librarians can help. And now I'll turn it over to Kelly.
Thanks, Renee. So we always are learning from student feedback. That's something that we strive to do. We definitely saw in the feedback form responses that the hands-on practice had more impact than the more passive ones we had done previously. Ethan mentioned the which is which exercise, which was basically a worksheet that students worked on to identify types of sources based on the citation given. And that was not very hands-on. This exercise was a better reflection of what students would actually be doing in their work. And as you can see by some of the responses that we featured here, students found the sessions overall to be interactive, but specific notes about citation activity included that, some students hadn't worked with APA before. In this particular example, they had never had to cite anything using APA. And as we all know, when you work with first-year students, there is a gap between what one school might have taught students and another school. So this was a way to kind of level the playing field a little bit and give everybody practice with both types of citations. And of course, we are going to continue to try to work on ways to improve this activity. Obviously, the big thing is we can't do this in a social distancing environment. We can't do this exact exercise online. The students really enjoy the magnetic paper. They would hold the board upside down and be like, oh, what is this? And they were, very engaged in it, but we can't do that now. So we're working on adapting it for online. We're also talking about ways to make it more challenging. We do have students who are more familiar and versed in citations, so we want to have some more practice available to them, other citations they can work on assembling so that they feel more challenged. We also, if we do this in person, we would need to adapt it to social distancing, maybe have students assemble like index cards on their own, something like that. So we're talking about that. We'll wait and see how the semester pans out. And we can go to the next slide. If anybody has questions, you're welcome to contact us. We had a lot of fun with this. Our students did too. We hope to get back to it in the future, and we'll answer any questions later as well. Thank you very much for attending today.
Thank you all very much, and happy Friday to all.
Thank you, everybody. Our next presenter is David Kupas from the University of Pittsburgh, and we'll give him a moment to go ahead and get his slides up and get ready to present to us. Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa, and hello, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me and see my slides. I'm Kupas. I work at the University of Pittsburgh's Johnstown campus, where I'm the interim library instruction coordinator. I'm sure that many of you would agree that reaching college students isn't always easy. Personalizing our outreach efforts and services can help us establish a connection with them. So in this talk, I'd like to share 2 ways by which we work to personally connect with our students on the Pitt Johnstown campus. I'll start with a little background information. Last fall, Pitt Johnstown had an FTE enrollment of almost 2,500 students, of which 624 were first-year students and 68 were transfer students. At our library, there are 4 librarians, including the head of the library. Although every day there are opportunities in our library to connect with students, such as general reference transactions, 2 initiatives that we've branded and marketed as personal to the students are our personal research consultations and our personal librarian program, which we highlight here on our website's homepage. Many of you may offer research consultations as an individualized service for students. The Pitt Greensburg campus library was the first to proactively market research consultations in the Pitt system. At Pitt Johnstown, we began doing this in 2016. In addition to marketing the consultations on our website, social media, and flyers in the library, we inform students about them in every library instruction session, and we've distributed our flyers to faculty to post in their offices. Having faculty encourage students to use the service really helps to highlight its value. For us, this has led to class requirements of meeting with librarians, both for individuals and group assignments. As you can see on the slide, we use SpringShare's LibGuide and LibCal platforms to offer students a self-service appointment scheduler. Each librarian maintains their own schedule, which is synced with their Outlook calendar for availability. When we decided to start our personal librarian program in the fall of 2018, we also decided to attach the personal branding to our consultation service. So for those unfamiliar with a personal librarian program, it simply matches every first-year student with a librarian. Yale's medical school library appears to have been the first library to do this starting in 1996. It was copied by the Yale University Library for undergraduates in 2006, and then other universities, including Drexel, Duke, Princeton, Boston College, and Case Western Reserve, adapted it. UNC Chapel Hill's program is specific for their transfer students. While some libraries may staff the program with all of their librarians, including tech services, others use only their instruction, reference, or liaison librarians, and so others operate strictly on a volunteer basis. Drexel modified its program a few years ago to be staffed by only their undergraduate learning librarian. Generally speaking, a personal librarian program is low cost, not time or labor intensive for the librarians. Most programs report having only 10% or fewer of their students contacting their personal librarians for assistance during the year. Even so, the outreach puts the library in the students' minds, and some may remember their librarians as a resource in the future. At Pitt Johnstown, all 4 librarians participate as personal librarians. In addition to first-year students, we do include our transfer students in the program. In our first year of having this program, we primarily divided our students alphabetically among the librarians, assigning one librarian the transfer student and another the international students. We averaged about 200 students per librarian. Putting this in perspective, Drexel's one librarian is matched to about 3,000 students. This past year, we decided to match the students by their majors to our subject liaison areas. This did result in an unequal distribution of students because STEM majors now predominate on our campus, but it didn't also result in an increased workload for those librarians. We again assigned the international students to one librarian. However, because our incoming international student population was very small last year, those students were matched to their respective liaison librarians. As for how we connect with the students, we primarily send them periodic emails throughout the academic year. This past year, we worked to send a message every month and ultimately sent the students 10 messages total. With each message, we encourage our students to contact us with any questions that they may have. First-year experience experts have noted that this generation of college students, including first-generation students, have a greater need for connection to feel that they belong on campus. So a personal librarian program is one way that the library can let students know that they aren't alone and that we're there to help contribute to their retention and success. For our emails, we use the free version of MailChimp, which is an email marketing platform. With such a platform, you can easily broadcast email campaigns that each librarian can personalize. This slide shows our welcome message campaign from last fall. We use our logo as our letterhead for every email and include our individual photo so that the students can more easily recognize us in the library or on campus. I may need to update my photo for the fall. Other messages that we sent last academic year include invitations to our open house and therapy dog event, marketing of our leisure collection and available services during the COVID-19 closure, instruction about ILL requests, how to read call numbers, and what peer-reviewed means. We also sent a message about the 2020 census and registering to vote for the primary election, including a brief tip on evaluating information. Having the transfer and international students on separate mailing lists allows us to further personalize the campaigns or add additional campaigns specific to their needs. Once you've written a campaign, you can reuse it in successive years. The free version of MailChimp, however, does limit the number of campaigns you save, so it is best to archive the content of previous campaigns elsewhere. In addition to creating broadcast email campaigns, MailChimp lets you run reports that analyze how many students open each message and how often, and also how many students click on the embedded links and which ones. One challenge for us is that today's students don't use email as much as we do. So overall, this past academic year, an average of 40% of the students actually opened our emails. The open rates did go down as the year progressed from an initial high of 64% to 32% for the final message of the spring semester. Despite the open rates not being higher, we did reach at least 222 students with each message sent and are hopefully connecting with students that we may not otherwise. MailChimp, of course, doesn't provide statistics on how many students fully read the messages, but again, it does give the click rates for embedded links. To assess our program further, we did include a brief Qualtrics survey in our last email message of this past year, but we didn't receive any responses. Unfortunately, there was no incentive for the students other than to provide us with feedback. So this is something that we're going to need to consider for the upcoming year. For those of you who wish to learn more about research consultations and personal librarian programs, here are some recommended readings that you can come back to. And then in summary, both consultations and personal librarian programs are easy and effective ways for librarians to establish a more personal connection with their students. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. Our next presenter is Richard Brustowitz from Carlow University. Let's give him a moment here to get his slides ready to go and then he'll present.
Hi, folks. Thank you so much, and thank you for the introduction. Bear with me just a moment. I have run into issues with Keynote playing well with, there we go. It was not playing well with Microsoft Teams when I was doing another presentation the other day, but it was to a different audience. All right, so my name is Richard Brustowitz, and I am the Instruction and Outreach Librarian at Carlow University. And today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about gamification and information literacy instruction, and specifically the way that this was applied for one program at Carlow University. So this is just a quick statistic I wanted to note because I think it's rather important when we consider, how are we presenting information to other people? The fact of the matter is there are 164 million American adults who play video games, which is an enormous amount, right? And when we're talking about gamification, it's clear that we need to do some work defining what we're talking about. So what I've done is I have kind of a list of just an agenda of the items we're going to be talking about. So we're going to define gamification, give some examples of applications in education historically, an overview of Carlow University's Stop, Stop, I Know the Answer, and depending on time, I have run a little close with this. It might be possible for us to do a little round of it as well. And then finally, we'll conclude with a discussion. So I want to just give a picture. So what I have here is an image of Super Mario World, and I've superimposed on it, and it's maybe didn't turn out quite as well as I'd hoped. Games are the new normal, which is a quote I love by Al Gore. And when we think about it, this is something that has been applied to all kinds of areas of our lives. Just everything that we do is broken down along these little guidelines of markers that delineate the way progress in games work. So let's take a closer look at this. The idea of gamification itself is relatively simple. All it means is we're taking aspects of game design, for instance, the way I interact with objects, the way that I set up goals, etc. And what it is this is really a process just simply by which we try to make education and learning a more engaging process. And this is something really that we do all the time, right? I mean, whenever we're talking about, how can I improve student agency, maximize student learning outcomes, improve general engagement, there are all kinds of ways that we go about doing this. Sometimes in class, maybe you remember when I was in middle school, we had to do, elementary school, we had to do little flashcards with math problems, for instance. And then every time that you would get, if someone got an answer wrong, you would have to sit down, but there was always a prize at the end. So what this is just a really simple kind of application of what we see in the broader discussion of gamification today. Now, most of the literature about it likes to focus on things like badges that say, great job, you just completed X, Y, and Z. Little experience bars, and if you're like me and you spent many, many years playing, say, Dungeons and Dragons, this is a really straightforward concept to you. But if it's not, all it really is like a progress bar, like the download bar, when you're waiting for something to download something from, a website. So really, when you think about it, though, gamification isn't a new concept at all, and but at the same time, the applications of it, as we've seen in this literature, for instance, by Detterding, which I quoted at the bottom. What we get a lot of discussions about, like earning trophies and so on, which have parallels in, say, online environments like Sony's PlayStation, where, you know, oh, you played, you know, X amount of hours on, I don't know, Fortnite. The same idea then gets applied to, say, learning. And so it would be like, an example being like Duolingo. So let's just take a look at just, first of all, a statistic, right? This is something that I think is important because it demonstrates that there is a causal relationship between gamification concepts and increasing student learning. Now, 4.5% doesn't seem like a lot, but it's certainly a statistically significant amount for the average amount, the average increase in student exams in their controlled setting that Danny and so on used in this study. And they were able to demonstrate that by breaking down assignments and exams via the process of gamification, they were then able to have a modest increase in their student outcomes. So this is a pretty encouraging statistic. So this is an example maybe that some of you remember, right? The Oregon Trail is, in my mind, the classic example of a very early instance of video gamification, if you don't mind my kind of coining a new term here, to teach something very specific. In this case, a bit of history. And so just what I have here quickly are 3 items that I wanted to draw for comparison. The first on the left is an old role-playing game called EverQuest. And as you can see, it has all of these kind of arcane statistics and little items that are equipped in different places and so on. I wanted to compare these, though, to things that we see on, say, Duolingo, in Facebook, in all kinds of different media these days. And this is, you know, beyond just education. We have people saying, oh, you know, you completed this project, you edited something, therefore you gained a level. Or, you know, you gained +1 to your character, or 3 to your karma. What all of these really do is they break down bits of incremental progress. And rather than it being kind of this Zeno's paradox where there's you know, no actual forward movement being made, it's something that you can progress. You can track student progress, you can track learners' progress just via setting these benchmarks and these markers. All right, so stop, I know the answer. This was kind of my solution to a challenge that we faced at Carlo. How can we come up with an engaging and novel way of partnering with another department on campus while putting together something that is going to increase our students' understanding of information literacy concepts? And you know, I've got to say I can't take credit for the name. Obviously, this was a direct reference to NPR and WBEZ Chicago's wonderful program, Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. And structurally, that was what we patterned it off of in this case, except rather than having, you know, kind of a panel show and, you know, Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me has a relatively loose structure, it was a relatively formal structure, such that there were 3 rounds, and the persons who, you know, won the most numbers of rounds were then eligible to win a prize in the end. So the upshot of this really is, I think, with gamification, is we have to consider how we set student learning markers that we expect them to meet, and then how do we incentivize them to not just, you know, develop their skills in the process of participating in an activity, but also going forward. And so to do this, we utilized Kahoot, and I've got to say thank you to my colleagues at Dickinson University. Their presentation at the same conference at Washington and Jefferson College was actually kind of what spurred me to think, aha, how can we do something that, again, takes away this really formal learning setting, makes it a little bit more like a game that students are playing, and then how can we put it into a format that, you know, also encourages students to actually learn something? So what I did was, first of all, I wrote a script for us that we ended up just using kind of to get a feel for, you know, characters and how we were structuring it. And then on the right, I have just 2 samples. The first is from the initial game. And what we did was we had a few bits of pieces from the media, tweets that students were to analyze and that were presented by 2 different persons who are our panelists. One of them would be telling the truth, the other would not. And my job in this was kind of to act as Peter Sagal, you know, the moderator, and to not lead students in any direction, but just to make sure we keep on topic. Finally, the one in the lower right-hand corner is just the example that if we have time today, I would love to show you folks really quickly. It doesn't look like we have time. So if you're interested, though, it is up right now, and you can take a look at it. I was thinking that if we had maybe 4 extra minutes, we could take a look at a video from Ancient Aliens, actually. And then we were going to figure out, is this a trustworthy resource or not? My suspicion, though, is my fellow librarians, you can also probably agree. In general, if it's on Ancient Aliens, it's good to think twice about the source. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. My name is Richard Brustowitz, and I would love to speak with any of you further on this topic. And like I said, if you want to play around with this, if you want to just sort of see what it looks like, please reach out to me. I would be glad to work with you and just see what we can do. Thanks again.
Great, thank you so much, Richard. We are now open for questions. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and unmute yourself or go ahead and type them into the chat. We'll hold off a few moments and see what anybody has to say. And this is for all 5 sessions.
Hi, this is Kim Bailey, and this question's for David. I'm wondering, David, if the MailChimp costs any money to run or obtain, or if there's a free version of it.
Hi, Kim. Yes, for the version that we use is a free version. So, it is a little bit limited. As I said, you can't archive too many of your campaigns, your ongoing campaigns. I'm offhand here, I'm forgetting the number of email addresses that you can put in. You do have a limit. I think it's like 2,000.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I have a comment actually to David right now, and that's that Penn State Beaver is actually trying the personal librarian for the first time this year. And they appreciate the talk and that the MailChimp idea is really great. The other question, actually, Richard answered in chat already, was about Kahoot. And that was if Kahoot is a free service. And he answered that question there that yes, it is a free service completely. There is a paid service, but you don't need to go for that one. Does anybody else have any other questions?
This is Kim again. I also had a comment on the Greensburg, University of Pittsburgh-Greensburg, Kelly and Ethan and Renee. I really like the idea of a magnetic board, and I really think that maybe we could all work together to somehow get this online. It just seems like there should be some SNAP program or something like that, but this could be a really great exercise.
Thank you. Yes, with using the Zoom features, we thought perhaps maybe the whiteboard or some other way to get students able to collaborate would definitely be helpful for the Zoom thing. And we're looking into getting that up and working on that. And we'd be happy to collaborate.
All right, are there any other questions? Well, we would like to thank everybody for coming by today and joining us. Our next sessions will actually be off next week since the 4th of July holiday is on a Saturday. Most people are celebrating on Friday. So enjoy the 3-day weekend. So we'll start up our sessions again on July 10th at 10 a.m. And then at that point in time, you'll also receive email in regards to the Zoom meeting and information on that. So we hope to see everybody soon. Thank you and have a great day.